Hello, everyone. I've been just sitting here working on a new drawing for the house that I'm working on. Uh, this is a retirement house design or for a small family of a couple and maybe one child. I don't have the additional bedroom or the bathroom shown in the plan because it's already existing. I don't didn't need to show it in the plan. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts and the designs that I came up with over the years of living at this house and the direction I'm going with it. It took me several years to work on this because I kind of built some of these things and took them down and moved them around and moved partition walls around to see what it is that I really would like to live in for a long period of time. Uh, my thoughts are to replicate the same floor plan at a different location. But nonetheless, I'm going to build this one first to ensure that I really like it. So, anyhow, with this floor plan, there's an existing porch, which can also be used for storage. It can be closed off for storage to include in as a walk-in closet for the bedroom, which would be the master bedroom in the event it's used as a two-bedroom house. I call this my therapy room. I have back issues. I've had back issues during the course of my working career. And, water therapy is a good thing. This house already has a whirlpool tub, so I'll just move it out to this location. I'm going to start out with an inexpensive 6 foot round swimming pool that only costs like $30 online. I already have the pump to go with it because I already have the 10-foot pool for outside. So as we move over here, this main area, uh, I got the spot for a cabinet or a regular kitchen stove. Currently use small appliances, so I don't have a regular stove in this house. I allowed an area when I put the window in for my sink, and I prefer a tub sink. I'd like a 3 foot tub sink, stainless steel commercial type. I'm probably just going to start out with the standard utility tub sink from a home improvement center. I allowed room for a full size refrigerator. I currently use just a compact one, and it's plenty for me. Uh, I'll have a door off of this area so that there's two doors in the house. I didn't show the other door, but currently there's a full size glass door at this location here. And right here, there's enough room to have a 7 foot pull down screen for a projection TV so that there's plenty of screen. I mean, I could put a 6 foot plasma screen there, whatever they call that nowadays, high definition screen there, but something big enough so that when sitting on the sofa, which I'm building a custom sofa bed there, because in the wintertime, oh, sorry, in the wintertime, I block off a section of the house. So what I would do in the wintertime, I'd sleep on the sofa bed. There would be a wall here with a full length glass door, and I would have a shutter system to cut off my countertop here. The seating is on the opposite side. So most of the year, I would have seating for at that counter at that direction. In the wintertime, when I'm here by myself, I can just sit on this end in order to make use of the counter table for myself to eat. If I had company over, I could open everything up and heat the whole area. It's just that, there's half as much area to heat here if I close it off during the wintertime. And I'm able to heat this house currently just with two small electric heaters, 1500-watt electric heaters. I got room for my cabinet countertop right here, standard kitchen cabinet countertop, 3 foot, 3 foot, and 2 foot cabinets. Right behind it will be jar storage. There'll be a closet that goes floor to ceiling with the access on the counter side on this side and an access down below on the counter side on the back because that's just a counter table. I'll have access from the underneath. And there's actually a lot of room in this, what appears to be a small storage. I can fit a lot of mason jars in that area. On this side here, this is basically the dining area. I have a 30-foot cabinet there and a 30-foot, 30-foot, what a mistake that was. 30-inch cabinet and a 30-inch cabinet, total 5 feet with a countertop. I can put a small refrigerator there for drinks. I can put a coffee pot here and an electric tea kettle. I can have cabinets on the top for additional things that I want to store and keep on hand. There's room for 3 30-inch windows equidistant across here. I was originally going to make this seating section like at a diner with a booth style with a table and a bench on either side. But as I increased the table up to 6 feet in length, I decided I didn't want to have that. That's kind of constrictive, the booth. But I like the novelty idea of a dining room. Oh, it looks like I have people that are watching. Hello, Mr. J Street, and hello, Mr. Ghost Dancer Radio. I kind of thought that I get this done and nobody would arrive. But hello to you. I don't care a whole lot to just sit and talk like some people do if I don't have any guests on. Currently, I don't think I even know how to have a guest on. So I guess I'm going to have to learn how to do that. Oh, invite guests. I don't know how that works. Copy. Copy. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to see, because I really don't know how to use this stuff. It's all a learning experience. I don't know if I can even go look live on my own channel or not. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be done, that I look live on my own channel. Live. People watching. Shut it off. Maybe this is how I do it. Yeah, it looks like something posted. Works because I don't even know, or I didn't know how to paste the link until just now. And off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything that I just want to talk about. Like I said, just sitting here talking to myself or even, talking to the screen. I don't know. I guess that's just not me. I don't have anything else set up. See, that's what I would have to do is I'd have to have something else set up in order to discuss. Yeah, I say something else set up that I guess that means props. Oh, it looks like I do have somebody. Let me see. How do I do this? I think that's the right button.
What's happening, Trusted?
It worked. Hello, Mr. Street. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How's your evening tonight?
Oh, pretty good. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Restream's kind of fun, ain't it?
This one's StreamYard,
Oh,
and
StreamYard.
it's not very difficult. It's just I'm not familiar with the features on it. I'm not really big with these electronic gadgets, so I'm not one of the people that looks at everything and figures out quickly how everything works. I kind of just use the basic minimum in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish. So anyhow, now I've done it once, the basic minimum in order to get somebody on to the live stream. So hopefully I'll remember that. It
I
doesn't
agree.
seem.
Well, I agree with you. It's kind of daunting where you're just babbling on to yourself, man. You kind of lose all track of what you wanted to do in the first place, huh?
Yeah, it kind of seems pointless. I always like to have a destination, even when I travel. I don't like to just roam without some kind of destination. Even if it takes me a couple days to get there, that's fine because I have a destination. Just
Right.
to roam around. And I was thinking about that the other day. I kind of learned that as a learned behavior because as a child, but by the time I was 10 years old, I was roaming around the city of Boston by myself. And I'd skip school and I'd spend the entire day there. And you don't want to look like a piece of prey to the predators out there. So if you have a destination, it's always easy and even be polite to people because you don't know if a person's a good person or a bad person, but you have a destination you're going to. So you don't have to sit there or feel compelled to sit there and talk to anybody, even if they're talking nice, because they're trying to goat you into something that might end up being a bad thing. So I guess it's a protective thing that I've always had in my mind. So I always like to have destinations.
Big cities, man. Big city. You look street smarts. You learn it real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm glad I didn't learn it the hard way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think I had told you one time before when I met Dragon Man, and he's the guy that has the automatic weapons sales, and he's the most heavily armed citizen in Colorado. When I met him, he gave me advice, and he told me how the world was a dangerous place. And actually, the way the situation happened was I was at a coffee shop having coffee with bikers. And I used to hang around with these bikers. They're called the Modified Motorcycle Association. And there was no, and it wasn't like a biker gang, but if you were in a gang, you could be part of it. It was more a political group. And they would hang out at this coffee shop, and I'd hang around and drink coffee with them and tell them dirty jokes. And this is when I was a young kid, from 10 years old up to like 14 years old. And I just hang and sit with the guys. And even though a lot of people were afraid of some of these people and were concerned about them or looked down on them, they always treated me extremely, extremely nice and kind. And they thought it was fun. They'd have good laughs because I'd tell them dirty jokes. So, anyhow, Dragon Man comes in one day and we're sitting there talking, and he's like, "What is this young kid doing in there during school time?" And one of the guys had mentioned about Dragon Man's Dragon motorcycle. And so Dragon Man says, do you want to see it? Because he built a motorcycle, it was a Harley Davidson, and he built a sheet metal dragon that came out behind the sissy bar over the top of the motorcycle, and he even ended up installing a flamethrower on the front of it. He still has it.
Really?
He still has it. If you look at the Dragon Man website, and I don't think it's called Dragon Man, it's called like Brass and Bullets or Bullets and Brass or something of that nature. But if you type Dragon Man and you find the guy from Colorado, you'll know it's him. His real name's Mel Bernstein. But anyhow, he says, you want to see it? I said, sure. So I went outside with them and I said, where is it? He's like, it's down the street here a little bit. So I walked down the street, we went past the coffee shop. We went to a gas station that wasn't open. And he stopped and he turned to me and he says, kid, he says, I asked you to come out here, he says, for a reason, because I didn't think anybody else would understand what I have to say to you. And he says, you know, the world's a dangerous place. He says, I'm a stranger to you, even though I came and sat with these people that you're familiar with. I'm a stranger. And you're just a little young kid. He says, you know, you could be in real trouble now if I was a bad guy. He says, you know, I want to give you advice, and what you should do is go back to school. That's a better place for you to be. That's a safer place for you to be. You shouldn't be out here roaming around. But it has to be your choice. It's up to you as an individual to always do what you think is the right thing to do. And I always remembered that. And it would come back to me every once in a while. And I would vividly remember that situation because I had a memory that I could remember everything I did in the course of a day for years. My memory is no longer that good, but I mean, literally, I could remember details about where I was, what was around me, anything that affected me. And you know, I thank him for his advice, and you know, I thought it was awesome advice, and he was spot on. A person is required to do what they think is right, even though sometimes they may make mistakes. They should be following what they think that's right, and not do things that they think is wrong.
Following their heart.
Absolutely, and he talks a lot about that over the
Yeah.
course of long periods of time. Every time, you know, he gets on the subject, he'll say, you know, on you know how people probably look down on him because he's a biker type dude, and but he's an upstanding guy and follows his heart straight from the heart and that kind of thing. And you know, it's kind of touching thinking about it. You know, he was a really good man, and he told me he was going to Colorado. At the time I
Really?
met him, he had not opened up that place. At the time I met him, he says, kid, he says, I'm following my heart and I'm following what I think I should do. And I'm going to Colorado and I'm going to do something really big. And gosh darn it, he did something very fucking big. If you go look to see what he's done, that is a huge, huge accomplishment. He has a military museum there that's phenomenal, that people can go there and have tours. And I went there with my oldest son that was a sergeant in the Army, and we went and had a tour there. And I said to him, I says, you know, I met you 35 years ago. And he's like, well, I'm sorry, but I don't remember. And I didn't get into detail in it because I figured because he's getting popular. Oh, he's probably pretty much celebrity status among some groups. I figured, you know, he probably has people coming out of the woodwork. I met you and whatever, trying to bother him, trying to get something out of him or some kind of shit like that. So I just left it alone. And my son and I went on the tour and had a really good time there.
Well, the fact that he didn't remember you kind of substantiates what he stood for. How many of you young guys did he do that for? If he didn't remember you specifically, that tells me he's been at this a lot, man. He's been doing it a long time.
I think you're spot on. I
Yeah.
think because he was in the Vietnam War, and I think he made that part of his life's mission was to give good advice to young people.
If you can't find your soul in Vietnam, you don't have a soul, man. And we all have one. You just, yeah. It's, well, given the situation, I've heard you tell that story before. And I think a lot of us from our age group, Trusted, we have similar stories. And at that age, you're a novelty to them. You're like, you're there. If they have, say, they feel bad about something they did in their youth, or they didn't have a parent or someone there to guide them, whatever reason they interjected, it was a novelty. So you gain from it and they gain from it, man. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, and you know that's actually ministering to people. That's a
Yeah.
spiritual minded person ministering to somebody. It's not a religious person. It's not a person trying to get them involved in any kind of group whatsoever. Not that people don't have groups that are good groups, but that's not the point of what they're doing.
Not to sound mushy, but I mean it was based in love, man. Love for a perfect stranger, man, a fellow human, a fellow traveler.
It is, and love is a very misunderstood word. What personally, what I boil love down to, like I have love for you, which means I care about you. I care about your well-being. That is love.
Yeah. But you ain't gonna take me out to lunch, huh?
Well, someday, no, wait a minute. I think I did promise you a sandwich. If we ever meet up on the road when we're traveling around, I owe you a sandwich because I
Well,
said that I would buy you a sandwich.
I agree with you, man. People nowadays, and I have kids, grandkids. I mean, the word love is misunderstood, man. It's a physical. They contributed to physical. I contributed to mental, man. To love someone doesn't mean you're gay. It doesn't mean you're soft. It means shit. We're all in this together, man. Come on.
Yeah, and we can do much better for people with a good piece of advice than we could with giving them something.
Yeah, yeah. Trust fund babies. What
Yeah,
better way
there's a lot
your
of trust
life?
fund.
Well, you can't live a life if you don't experience it. If all your needs are met and you just have idle fingers, chances are 99.9% of the times it's not going to come out to favor you, man. It's not. You're not learning nothing. You're not progressing. You're not contributing to humanity, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible to do it, but that leads back into the concept of religion and being religious. That religious is what you do on a regular basis. And unfortunately, people think religion is joining an organized religious group that has mythical stories.
Well, I I'll be 60 in a few months, man. I reflect back, religion is nothing more than confused people looking for answers, and they get comfort in knowing, um and of course you have to believe in it, knowing that this group I'm engaged with has the answers. They have my back. I get
Uh-huh.
it. I get it. But what they fail to realize, and Christianity itself teaches it, you are God. You are it. You are it. Who you're fooling yourself, man. You don't need them. You don't it's you are it. You are God. God is in you. If he's in you, then you, what, you have this ray gun coming down invading you? No, you are God.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that draw people into religions. And I'm not talking about people that are forced into it by their family members, that it's the right thing to do and you have to do this or you're going to go to hell. I'm talking about the people that willingly go on their own without them outside pressures. Number one is dealing with grief.
Yeah.
That's
No
probably
place
the
else to turn.
primary thing. And attempting to get an understanding of life and death. And, it might not sound nice, but I refer to them as death cults. A lot of religions are nothing but death cults. And people take the advice from them because, they say that there's a different place to go to after we die. We call it heaven or hell. And depending on either what you do or what place our God thinks you should go to, depends on where you go to.
In your actions. It's fear-based. Fear-based.
It is fear-based.
Yeah.
It is fear-based.
I don't agree with using fear to coerce the masses, man. No. But I've always said, I believe, and this is my belief, in my opinion, my soul is mine. No one has control of that. It's mine. If the Bible tells me my actions on this planet is going to dictate where I go in the afterlife, in other words, I have control, free will. Well, that tells me my soul is mine. Who are you to dangle it like a carrot saying, listen, do what we think or else? Man, it's mine. I can do with it as I please.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we alluded to earlier, the word love, man. People misunderstand. All it means is you care about your fellow human. We're all on this planet together, man. Color, education, it doesn't matter. We're all here together. It's just one solid little globe floating in trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of others.
Yeah. And when people get together and they start that first part of a family, maybe they'll have children, maybe they won't have children, and they even think about getting married. Of course, that individual, the person would have a deeper love for that individual, a deeper level of caring. But that doesn't mean that isn't what the actual love part is.
Well, that type of situation isn't, I believe it's vested interest. The closer people are to you, the more vested interest you have in them. But if you look at it in the big picture, we're all on this planet together. We should have, ironically, we've been programmed not to, but shouldn't we all have the same vested interest concerning the planet and our existence? I would think so. And our advancement? Wouldn't that that would benefit everybody. But for whatever reason throughout history, we have been brainwashed to believe a certain color, a certain region, we shouldn't trust them, and blah blah blah. I don't buy that.
Yeah, those are all superficial factors. People are very superficial, generally speaking.
Insecure. People are insecure, man. They are, unless they mass together.
That too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No one. I did a video a while back, basically saying, don't be afraid of who you are, man. You don't need anyone else to substantiate you, validate you, or anything else. You are who you are. And I think that's another brainwashing tactic of the herd. You need us. You need us. No, I've said it many times, Trusted. They need us. We don't need them. They make our lives miserable. Why do we need that?
Yeah.
Why? Because they're always bitching and fighting and wanting some from some other fucking country. Come on, man. We're all on the same planet together.
Yeah, but the superficial aspect, Even the way that the term or the word race is used, it basically is a connotation of a person's physical attributes, your skin tone, maybe your facial features, that somehow if you have those in common with somebody else, that you are automatically in that group and you should be stereotyped according to that group and what society thinks the stereotypes are. And that all that is a way to divide and conquer people.
All by physical and visual attributes, not mental. Nothing.
Right.
You're correct, man. Race has nothing to do with the mental beliefs of a person. It doesn't. It's all superficial.
Because if we look at the basic meaning of the word race, it's a competition.
Well,
And everybody that has light or dark skin are not in the same competition.
I'll
Or
go as
different
far
faces.
as I'm sorry. I'll go as far as to say, right after 9/11, if you mention Islamic in the Middle East, it was a bad condemnation towards that race of people. See how they group the mental with the physical? And it's based on what? Hold on. What was that word? Religion.
Yeah, and all of them. I'm going to talk about the Abrahamic religions more specifically, the Islam, the Judaism, and the Christianity. It's actually a trinity, and the trinity is the middle of the road, the conservative or the liberal side. And it don't matter what group you're in, the extreme liberal, the extreme conservative, the extreme conservatives tend to be the more militant. But I'm telling you, the liberal side, the extreme liberals has become equally as militant as the extreme conservative side. And the people in the middle are the majority of the people that don't like what either side is doing. And they don't get together and say, wait a minute, we got to get away from this bullshit.
A prime example of what you're talking about is the Republican Democratic Party. Years ago, back in the 80s, Clinton and after, there was always, I don't agree with either of them. I'm pissed off at, I don't agree with either of your party. And the independents come in. And what do? They squash them like they're a joke. Like, oh, are you serious? An independent? It's rare to even see an independent. Here until recently, you never saw an independent at the presidential debates ever. It was just Republican and Democrat. See how they shield themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Our country is not run the way that it should be run. And it's the same exact thing as religion. People get indoctrinated to be a Democrat or a Republican. I grew up in Massachusetts. The indoctrination was for Democrat. And when I started voting, I was independent minded. And when I registered to vote, I registered as independent. And I always did register as an independent until I stopped voting about 6 years ago. I was like, no, I don't want to participate in a partisan system. And that's what we have going on, a partisan system, which is two different sides of the same fucking coin.
Well,
And
they actually they actually what's the word? They inhibit independent. If you're registered as an independent, you can't vote on, is it the primaries? It's who sets
yeah,
up the, is it called the primaries?
yes,
Yeah, they prohibit you from voting Democratic or Republican. If you're registered independent, you can only vote on the what they call the final election after the primaries, right?
I believe so. I don't even remember. It's been 6 years since I've even voted, but I'm pretty sure the primaries are only open for for people voting either Democrat or Republican. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
any other party has to put together their own system of voting.
I always
That's
thought
not
that
right.
was I always thought that was strange. I'm like, so the person that can think independently, you are basically chastising them and preventing them from putting their vote in to decide a Democrat or Republican. Why? Because they're not aligned with a Democrat or Republican. Here's the kicker. I was registered Democrat since the 80s, early 80s, and I went in, and if you anyone that's voted, when you go in on the, I think it's called the primaries, but where you vote on certain parties, right, in your district and all that,
Yeah.
vote Republican. They're not on the ballot. You're just voting for the Democrats. See how they isolate it? So if
Yeah.
basically what I'm saying is, if you're a registered Democrat in your district, I don't give a shit where you're at, and there's the primaries coming up, or whatever they call the runner up, where you eliminate all the field and then put the Democrat and Republican against each other, whatever they call that part, I think it's primary. But
Yeah.
if you go in as a registered Democrat, your ballot that you're voting on is all Democrats. There's no Republicans on it. So
Yeah.
how can you make a logical decision for the best party and cut out the middleman? You just vote for your freaking party. And once again, if you're registered Democrat or independent, you don't get an invitation. You can't vote. You can't vote Republican or Democrat. What the hell, man?
Yeah. I don't think it's right that there even is a primary. That's
Well, it's
something
like
that the parties themselves should operate it, fund it. It should not be done by the governments. It should not be done by the state governments.
I compare it to like a beauty contest. The Democrats is putting their beauties out there, Republicans, and you got to pick one, two, and three. Usually, number one wins, and both the East Coast, whatever, Democrat, Republican, they fight it out. It's a beauty contest, man.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
not. If you're
Because in the end of it, it's the people who are in charge of the party that's allowing, and I use the word allowing, any particular candidates to rise up in the ranks of the party. So you're really voting on the candidates chosen by the party.
yeah,
So they should do that part, the final part, the primary part, all by themselves also.
they
The state
should.
should not be involved in it.
No, it should take no tax dollars to figure out who the hell you're going to throw up against another party.
Or even give them space. They shouldn't even be given space by the local governments to do voting. That should
Well,
not be happening.
if you're going to be fair and righteous, independent is an acknowledged. You can register to be independent, so it's acknowledged by the federal government and state governments. It's acknowledged. Why on earth there is no independent primary? There isn't. How? Why is that?
Well, I think because they have alternative ways for an individual to get onto a ballot, which requires a certain amount of signatures. And they use that as their, I'll say excuse, as their excuse as to why they don't run an independent primary. They could have an independent primary that includes a write-in candidate.
Yeah.
Instead, they force the independent person that's not part of a party to do that on their own. That's not right.
I have personal experience. I ran for mayor in my town, and long story short, lifelong Democrat. They said they wouldn't back me because they didn't know who I was. I had to like join their group, and they'd helped me through the process. I'm like, listen, man, I'm a lifelong Democrat. You guys send me that every election year. You send me, I'm on your mailing list. You know, I am registered Democrat. Check my voting. I've crossed the board. Anyhow, they said, nope, because we don't know you and you're not part of the gang. We can't back you. I'm like, well, fuck it, man. I'll run independent. And here's the catch when you run independent, you don't get invited to any of the debates. You don't, basically, they shield, no one even knows you exist unless you take on the effort yourself. And even then, the local papers, they're not going to print nothing. I don't give a shit where you're at. They're not going to print about you unless you do something crazy and like detrimental. Then if you run around naked in the street, oh yeah, look at this crazy independent. Here we go. But here's the catch. I ran as an independent and I said, fuck it. You know what? They said, aren't you cute? Well, you need X amount percentage of the last electoral. In other words, from the last time the mayor ran in Marion, how many votes was cast total? I needed a certain percentage. I think it was 10%. I needed basically like 1,200 signatures to be on the ballot. I'm like, and I'm talking to, I said, you know what? You won't even acknowledge me as independent. I said, fuck it. I'll go as a write-in, man. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I ain't jumping through your hoops, man. Fuck you. And they wanted me to pay money to do their, I'm like, fuck you. I'll just go as a write-in. I don't need you guys. But here's the catch, Trusted. They basically abolish you from any participation in anything. There was several schools, colleges. We have a Ohio State branch here. A lot of them did debates, and of course and we're talking all the way up to United States senators come to Marion during election time to do, they get these invitations, especially from the Ohio State University. Long story short, I didn't get any invitation, none, even though I was running. That's not fair, man.
No, it's not fair. I think if there was an independent primary a primary, independent primary added on, you get a Democrat primary, Republican primary, and have an independent primary, that the independent primary should be able to satisfy the required amount of signatures needed to get on a ballot as a write-in candidate.
Well, all I'm saying is this, from my personal experience in 1999, if you're going to acknowledge an independent when you register to vote, Democrat, Republican, or independent, you have three choices to register. If you acknowledge that at the federal level and state level, then why do you make the independent, when it comes to the people voting, why do you put a hindrance and a monkey wrench into the machinery, man? What are you scared of?
They don't want independent-minded people.
It sounds like control issues, don't it?
Well, absolutely, because both sides are corrupt by the same thing. Other special interest groups. In other words, it's the selling of political influence.
So basically, what we can agree upon here, Trusted, that independents are danger to their game and you not playing what they want you because they don't have anything on you. Is that what we're agreeing to here?
Absolutely. When I lived in Maine, we had a governor. His name was Angus King. And Angus King was an independent. And Bill Clinton showed up when he was going around the country trying to get votes stirred up for his election. And you want to know the very first thing he said to Governor Angus King?
What?
How the hell did you get in office? That was the very first thing he said to the governor. How the hell did you get in office?
Yeah, you didn't play the game, man. How the hell did you get here?
So
And that's in
actually,
my
this has been very fruitful so far. I think I'm getting a good idea coming out of this conversation that there needs to be an independent ticket.
well, it's blatantly obvious to me
Yeah,
that the Democratic and Republicans do not want you messing with their game. They are going to pursue, and I call it the machine. You are
yeah,
not going to fuck up their machine. The only
yeah.
way they'll let you in, and that's why Trump was a big deal. And of course, I didn't agree with him. Personally, in my opinion, I never have liked him since the '80s. He's just an arrogant little. I just don't like him, man. He rubs me wrong. But besides that, my hat's off to him that he fucking said, "Man, fuck you. I will be elected," and his money and his poll did it for him. But look what they did to him. They shut him down at every fucking, even the media, everybody attacked him. Why? Because he never played the game with the big boys, and they were going to make him pay. And the big boys were Republican and Democrat, have so much fucking dirt and influence because of all the lobbyists that everybody pulls their fucking strings and tells them, you better shut this shit down. They're making a fool of you, man. I ain't gonna back your dumb ass no more. And guess who suffers?
The people, the people suffer, and an average person will never. I mean, I'm old enough, and you're old enough to remember. And I heard it from my teacher, which I thought was awesome, in like the third grade, that you could grow up to be president. She didn't tell me if you suck ass in the right political party, you could grow up to be president. She didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me if you don't suck up to the right party, you have to be rich and then you can become president. She told me that anybody it was possible to become president. She didn't give the caveats. Did I lose you? I guess I lost you. Well, I'll see for a minute here if you come back. But yeah, Mr. Street, thank you, because this, you already knew that what's needed is an independent primary ballot, and I'm just building on that independent primary ballot concept that there should be required in every state to have an independent ballot. It's pretty hard to do because the states are allowed under the Constitution to run their voting system. They're allowed to do that. I think essentially somebody would have to sue every state. An independent group would have to sue every state to force a primary ballot, and that signatures on a write-in candidate on a primary ballot have to be accepted, and the person has to be put in on the write-in as a write-in candidate. Because the way it stands now, if a person doesn't follow the rules for the state to become a registered write-in candidate, even if the person is written in and even if they have enough votes to win, those votes will not be counted. So I think the primary, seeing as it's an automatic registration for the Democrats on their primary end, it's an automatic registration for the Republicans on their end, that the only equal treatment under the law would be an automatic registration for any and every independent that gets enough signatures to be a write-in candidate on the ballot. Other than that, the current system is illegal under the Constitution and civil rights. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Street, and I'll see you around. Thank you, Ghost Dancer, for showing up. Thank you, Kiwis Road. You all have a good night.